I mentioned earlier today I'd like to take a look over 2 weeks at creativity in the arts from two very different perspectives. Joining us today is international opera singer back here in Australia, Sarah Toth. Good to see you, Sarah.
Hi, Keith. Good to be here.
Sarah, you're now a performing singer. You're travelling the world of opera, but that's not where the story starts, really, does it? You're the daughter of Christian missionary parents. Tell us a little bit about childhood and home.
Sure. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I grew up as a pastor's kid, first of all, traveled around a lot, and then we finally moved and settled in Hungary in Europe. And my family was based there for 17 years as missionaries. So yeah, we grew up speaking another language in schools and going through a big culture shock at the beginning, but that was my beginnings.
So you start there, and then you eventually move into the world of a serious classical academic music background. That's a very different world too, isn't it?
It is a different world, yeah, you're right. I mean, I always grew up with musicians in my family. I have a lot of choral singers, choral conductors in my family, so I was always surrounded by music and the love of music from an early age. I was a classical flautist, and so I loved classical music and challenging myself with practice. But I actually had a secret wish to be a singer-songwriter originally. I guess not so secret because I did that for a while and tried that out. But then somehow opera found me.
And opera's very different than that. There's nothing you said apart from the flautist
True.
that would lead me to say opera singer.
Well, you know, I didn't even think about becoming an opera singer originally. That wasn't in my plan, or even I don't think I'd ever seen an opera before I started considering it. But I had a singing teacher in Ithaca, New York, Patrice Pastor, who saw potential in me, saw something in me, and she said, you know, I think you've got a bigger voice in there, and we need to start seeing if it likes to sing opera. And even before that, it's interesting, my choral teacher at Greenville College in Illinois, I was singing as an alto, actually, in the choir, and he said, I think your voice wants to sing higher than you're letting it sing. You know, let's see what happens if we play with that a little bit. So that was the first time I had voice lessons.
I mean, also to an amateur, it always feels like you need a big voice to be able to sing opera, don't you, really?
Yeah, and that's the thing, is we can train our voices. I believe everyone is able to sing and train their voice to use the natural resonance that God's given us. But yeah, opera found me, or God placed me in that area, and I've never looked back.
So have you got favourite operas?
Oh, man. Well, dream of mine is to sing Violetta in La Traviata by Verdi. That's a really beautiful opera. I actually started, I played a flute fantasia on that opera years and years ago, so that maybe is what made me fall in love with it. But I kind of like the swooning heroine sometimes. She's
To try and link up the Christian faith with this conversation, I wonder if I were to say to you, what to you is important as a performer, as somebody in that world, and also as a Christian? Yeah,
sure. Well, as a performer, I mean, when you're on stage, when you're giving something, you always have to come back to who are you as a person and what are your values? Because those are the things that are going to come through to an audience, no matter what you're singing, no matter what you're performing. And so, as a Christian, I feel like my faith and my values are what drives me, and that is my faith in Jesus. He's the reason that I sing, and the reason that I have something to say. And so I feel like that's important to figure out when you're wanting to use the stage as a platform.
But it isn't just as you're actually performing on the stage, I suppose, is it?
Yeah, that's true. A lot of people just see the finished product and don't see what's behind the scenes. But as a singer, I have to not only know what I'm portraying on stage, but I also have to be a good colleague behind stage.
Sure.
How we interact with each other in rehearsals, in those times when you're feeling down. And then I also have to know who I am in the practice room. And that's the place that no one sees. It's just you and God. And those are the times when it really shows where your faith is grounded. Those are the times when you can you work things out, you have struggles, you have joys, and that's what ultimately portrayed
and
later.
can you tell if one of those three things is really...
Yeah, whether it's off or whether it's on. I mean, I feel like I have to sit in that practice room, in that secret place, and hammer it out until I know what it is that I'm sharing, and what it is that I'm singing, and I think that's something that you just work out over time as well.
So somebody's sharing with us today, and they're involved in arts and performance, and their dream is to go. What advice would you give them as a young Christian wanting to do that?
Oh, if they're wanting to go into the arts, I would say find what you love, find what your spirit comes alive with, and explore a lot of different things as well. So, like, for example, with opera, I'm also informed by poetry and theater and drama and languages. So, and I wouldn't have known growing up learning languages that would actually help a career in opera. That I never knew I'd be pursuing that. So find what you love, but then also find all the other things you love, because eventually they're going to all converge together. And I would also say spend time knowing who you are and knowing what you believe in, why you believe in it, and what you want to be saying to the world. I feel like we have an opportunity as performers to share parts of the heart and to motivate people, to inspire people in a way that's sometimes it's entertainment, sometimes it's thoughtful art, but it kind of sneaks up on you sometimes when you're listening to a piece of music and all of a sudden you feel something in your heart, or you have an idea that you never realized. That's a huge privilege as a performer. It's a privilege and a responsibility, I think.
Sarah, you were wonderful last year because you shared with us at the Sydney Opera House on the wonderful Easter Day. I hope you stay in touch with us and that we can keep this relationship, because you are part of our Australian sense of having somebody who is on the rise in opera. But thank you for sharing from the heart too. And it's great to see somebody using their God-given talents, whatever those talents are, to enrich the lives of others.